but we found there's a strong connection.
I would rather deal with organized crime than disorganized crime. Because in disorganized crime, everybody's out there doing whatever they wanted to do. In organized crime, only certain people can do it.
What's up, guys? Welcome into another episode of Corruption Connection. I'm your host, Tony Hernandez. So as many of you know, I spent a little bit under a decade as a NYPD transit officer where I did plainclothes undercover work in the subway system throughout New York City. I've been featured on a few channels. You might have seen me on Johnny Mitchell, The Connect, Locked In with Ian Bick, Camp Gagnon, and a few others. You know, everybody asks me, like, you must have seen a lot of things. And I've seen everything. I mean, you name it, I've seen it. Dead bodies, people getting killed, murder, victims of rape, robbery, forcible touching, grand larceny, you name it. Or a slew of crimes, all the crimes happen in the subway system. Literally every crime you can think of. And a lot of them are serious felonies, you know, the 7 major felonies, we call them in New York City. I'm not sure if it resonates with the rest of the country. However, a lot of these gentlemen are seasoned criminals and they use the subway system to their advantage. It's crowded, they can make excuses, they can disappear in the crowds. The MTA recently has been implementing security cameras in every station. They've had them before, but we're talking about those 1980s, 1990 cameras that barely work, CCTV style. You know, they're really trying to step up their game now, and they've updated the camera system to where you can actually see in real time some of these crimes occurring. And I heard recently that they implemented a plan and signed a deal in order to install cameras in every single train car within the New York City subway system. Let's see if that gets done. I've heard that floated before, that idea. And then also it's the maintenance of these cameras. And one thing that I could say about criminals taking the subway, cameras don't deter them from doing what they want to do. If they're going to commit a crime, they're going to commit a crime. They don't care who's watching. And that's one thing that I noticed being a police officer as well. Everyone has a phone today. If people were scared of doing crimes, I mean, anybody can just flick out a phone. I mean, you wouldn't see crime anymore if that was the case because everybody has a cell phone and everybody's recording everything. A lot of these criminals are very brazen and they don't care. There's certain things that stick out to me. Obviously, you know, some of the more gruesome stuff, some of the more heinous crimes, some of the more dirty, disgusting crimes. And I'll be going into detail on some of them. I'll go over some of them right now with you guys so you can kind of get an idea of what it's like working down there. So first off, if you've ever ridden the New York City subway before, you know it's a world onto its own. It's literally filled with dirt, garbage, brake dust from the train. It smells like urine and feces. You kind of just can't avoid that smell once you're there. And it's most New York City subways that smell like this. In the wintertime, it's 10 degrees colder down there. And in the summertime, it's 10 degrees hotter down there. So you could just imagine on a sweltering New York City day when it's 90 plus degrees outside, downstairs, an extra 10 degrees mixed with all the brake dust and the smell and the garbage. It's just a really horrid place to be. So that being said, the subways breed a lot of criminal activity, like I was telling you guys. One of my encounters that actually stands out with me, and I've spoke about this on some of my other interviews, was an old lady that was pushed down the stairs. So me and my partner, we were about a stop away. We were in Queens. We get a call. We were on the E line, I believe. Yeah, EF line. We get a call about a lady falls down the stairs. Initially, you know, okay, it's probably an aided case. An aided case would mean we'd have to fill out paperwork, have the ambulance come remove her. We get there. As we're coming to the top of the stairs, I can see the lady at the bottom of the stairs. She's kind of in a scorpion position like this, surrounded by a pool of blood. She's literally in a pool of blood. She's conscious. We walk to her. I say, ma'am, you okay? You know, I check on her, see if she's all right, you know, kind of just to see if she's still with us. She's totally conscious. She's alive. Like I said, her head is on the floor. She's in a scorpion position like this with her body on the subway stairs and her head is kind of at like the stair landing. Her nose and her mouth and her face are here. They're to the side of her face. She's talking to me like this. And her whole face is smushed to the side. So basically she had cracked open this part of her skull right here, and that's where all the blood came from and was gushing. My partner, this was This might have been my second or third day on the job. So my partner was a rookie too. We were two rookies. They used to send us out in pairs at the time. We did in the beginning. I was in a unit called Citywide Impact. So basically, what they did was anywhere there was a crime condition in the city or anywhere they needed patrol, they would send us. So I'd wind up working in Brooklyn, Queens, the Bronx, all over the place. So back to the story. Me and my partner are together, and she's a rookie as well. And as soon as she sees the lady, she's like this, just in total shock. You know, you see an old lady on Sunday going to church, falls down the stairs, you already feel bad. So we didn't know the particulars at this time exactly of what happened to her. So we get, as I'm talking to her, she's still conscious, EMS comes, and when the EMS picked her up, it's my second or third day on the job to actually see this is a little wild. Remember what I told you, her face was here. When they picked her up, her face did this, like a flap, whoop, whoop, came off. It was stuck on the floor and it kind of came off and slapped right back onto her face when they picked her up. It was a pretty gruesome scene. When you have something like that, that's an aided that possibly is a victim of a crime, you'd have to call the detectives. So the detectives will come and they'll investigate the scene just to make sure it's a straight aided and that she wasn't a victim of a crime. In this particular instance, she was a victim of a crime. She was pushed down those stairs and slid on the stairs on her face. And that's why her face was all smushed to the side. When she had gotten to the landing, her face kind of just settled and she was still conscious and able to talk. But she was probably still in shock. She had no idea what happened to her. So when the detectives did their investigation, they discovered that she was pushed. I mean, it was a real terrible incident, you know. It's just kind of the things that you see in the subway. These criminals have no heart. They're very heartless. Yeah, so that's something that, like I said, it was my first week, but I'll never forget something like that. You know, it was just a really crazy experience. Fast forward, you know, that was just like my entry into the subway system. You know, I would see a lot more crazy things, you know. A lot of the gruesome stuff that you see are people being hit by the trains. You know, we call them man-unders. And a man-under is anyone that comes into contact with the train. So if you happen to come into contact with the train and not fall on the tracks, you're still considered a man-under. So I can't remember exactly what the first man-under I saw, but the one that stuck out to me, there's a few, but it's really gruesome to see someone come into contact with the train. You have no idea the force of that train. It's like something you've never even seen before. It's like someone getting hit by a speeding tractor trailer. Imagine these things go about on an average of 40 to 60 miles an hour, I would say, in those train tunnels. So, you know, when they're zooming out of that train tunnel, you know, the wind and the force is just so much. It even blows you back sometimes if you're standing on the platform. So imagine if you actually come into contact with it. One time that I can remember a man under that the guy didn't fall over, I was with my partner. We were at Jamaica Center, and there was a fight about to happen. These two guys look like they're about to get into a fight. And one guy's looking at the other, and they're having words and blah, blah, blah. We didn't think it was going to be anything. We thought it was just a verbal dispute. We were going to just say, okay, you go your way, you go yours, and just have a nice day. We had done that. It looked like it was going to be over. We started walking away. As we were walking away, you could hear the scuffle. So as we turn around, they start fighting. They just start fighting with each other, you know, brawling. What the guys didn't realize, and anybody that's ever been to Jamaica Center, or maybe they didn't realize at the time because of the heat of the moment, but anybody that's been to Jamaica Center knows that that's the last stop on the in the train system before it goes to the train yards. That's the last stop. So it goes in the tunnel to go to the train yard. So you never see that train coming out of the tunnel. As these two guys are scuffling, one guy pushes the other one. The train comes out of the tunnel. He doesn't see it. It kind of hits him here, like his face and upper shoulder. Hits this guy so hard. And it wasn't going as fast as normal. It was probably going about half speed at that time. It was kind of just gaining momentum. Clipped this guy's shoulder. He did like a boom, like almost like a whirlwind in the air, like a 540. I don't know. He definitely did a 360 and then just boom, hits the floor. The guy who he was fighting with, same reaction was like we were, like, whoa, like his eyes were open. He thought he probably killed the guy. You know, a little scuffle all of a sudden turned into attempted murder. You know, that's what probably was going through his head. So the guy was dazed. Obviously, he did this 540. His head starts leaking open. We wind up locking up the guy. Like I was telling you before, anytime that someone comes into contact with the train or they believe they're a victim of a crime, you have to escalate it to the detectives. So during a man under, it's a really serious situation. We put it on the radio. Everyone comes, a supervisor, if there's a duty captain on the air or some kind of a duty chief, depending on the severity of the situation, they actually might show up as well. So, you know, the whole gauntlet, everyone comes, we explain the situation, and yeah, man, the guy, he survived, you know, but he was banged up. Another time, which is like a blessing from God, you know, like I said, you really don't want to come into the contact with the train, but there is a lot of times that people survive getting hit by trains, you know? So one instance that I could tell you about that was like a miracle. This guy was touched by God. We were in the van. It was, even though I worked transit, we did have vans and, you know, cars and patrol vehicles in order for us to maneuver around the city. So at the time, I was with the sergeant and another officer, and we got a call to 75th on the F on Queens Boulevard. So if anybody's ever taken that station, you know it's very quiet. You know, nothing really happens there. We get a call for a man under. It's confirmed. We show up on the scene. We weren't far away. I believe we were driving back to the precinct. At that time, I was working out of District 20 in Briarwood. So it was maybe 2 train stops away. We get down there. The conductor's going nuts. Excuse me, the operator's going nuts. He's like, "Oh, I hit this guy. I hit him." An operator is the one who is in the front of the train car. The conductor is the guy on the side who you'll see do this little point. He points to a sign. He opens the doors and closes the doors. That's the conductor. So in this instance, the operator is going nuts. He's walking back and forth. He's on the microphone. He's like, "Oh, I hit him." He's got his flashlight. "I hit him. Oh my God." Those guys actually get like a year paid vacation, or I don't know what you want to call it. Some kind of leave in order for them to rest and recuperate after such a traumatic experience. Because it is, you know, you're just driving the train, then all of a sudden some guy falls or you think you killed someone, you know, it kind of weighs on your psyche. So in this particular instance, I could see how distraught this guy was. He's going all over the place and he's like, "I killed him. Oh, I know it. I saw him." So we look down and we actually see the guy in the middle of the train tracks. So what happened was he stumbled, he fell, FD came, we winded up getting him out. They put him on a stretcher. They said he had a pulse. He was still alive. He didn't look banged up on the time. Obviously he looked dirty because it's dirty down there. It's a lot of, you know, that dirty sewage water and stuff like that, garbage. So he was dirty, but he looked like he was in one piece. The next day, I don't know what happened to him after that, right? I go home, I finish my shift. The next day, the guy walks into the precinct to thank us. Not a fucking scratch on this guy's body. Like I said, he was blessed, touched by God. He said he had a few too much beers. He was like a Polish construction worker, you know? He was hitting too many beers after work. Came down. He still had like his construction outfit, his work clothes on. Came down the subway stairs. As he got to the bottom step, he must have missed the step, stumbled, fell right on the tracks in direct collision with the oncoming train. However, he got so lucky because if you've ever looked down on a train tracks, there's like these little divots, these little like about 6x3 spaces in between the train tracks that if you lay down there flat, the train will pass right over you. And that's exactly what happened to this guy. He fell down, knocked himself out, had no idea what happened to him, woke up in the hospital. And when they told him, he was like, "Wow, you know, maybe I should take a break drinking or something like that," he said, you know. So it was just like something like that, you know. But then there's other times where people get hit by a train and we call it a space case. Now, these are really the most brutal kinds of, I guess, experiences that you'll have when seeing someone getting hit by a train, because a lot of the times they're still alive. So a space case is someone who gets caught between the train and the platform. Now, I'm sure you've seen in Manhattan, if you've ever ridden the subway there in certain stations, a lot of these stations are older and they weren't really designed to correctly, you know, especially for the new trains in order to accommodate on the old tracks. A lot of them will have these retractable platforms that go in and come out. You know, they're like metal grates that go in and come out when the train approaches. So in regards to space cases, a lot of people actually get caught in that retractable platform. You know, they might be on their phone, not paying attention, talking to their friend. The next thing you know, they're stuck and the train's coming. And when that thing pushes forward, I mean, you know, you can't escape it. I've seen a few space cases in person. The really brutal part about space cases a lot of the times is that because you're pinned to the train is keeping you alive. It's holding in all your insides. As soon as you separate from the train, you die. So a lot of the times, the officers on scene will have to tell the individual that's stuck in this particular situation that they have to make their last calls, pretty much their last rites, because as soon as they call ESU, Emergency Service Unit, to come and remove this person from the train, they're going to put something what's called an airbag between the train and the platform, and they're going to blow that train back. When they blow the train back, your insides are just going to bleed out. And, most of the times you die. So I personally haven't had to make that call and give it to the person, but I've seen it done. Like, hey, this guy's going to die. Whoever was the first officer on scene or supervisor that may have been in charge, had to go through that process. Like, give me a telephone number and you have to call. You're going to die. I mean, it's that serious, and that's a real hard-hitting dose of reality when you see something like that. There was another time, it's in Manhattan. This one's actually on video, talking about those retracting platforms. Hey everyone, if you're enjoying this video, please click the like button below and make sure to subscribe to the channel. If you would like to support the channel further, please hit the super thanks icon, which can be found below each video or in the comment section below. If anyone is interested in becoming a connected member, click the join button to gain access to rare pictures of organized crime figures, untold stories, and exclusive behind the scenes footage. Thank you. Now let's get back to Corruption Connection. I guess this guy must have got caught, and you'll see the train rolling in. The train doesn't stop, and he's down there, and he's just getting mangled, turned around. I think that maybe the platform went back or forward. It slammed into him, and he's just getting twisted up and rolled like a pretzel. And I mean, it's horrific to see. If you look it up, you'll find it. Like, man gets caught between subway, got like a ponytail. It's brutal. It's brutal to see. But those are the dangers. I mean, they're real dangers. And if you see now recently in the headlines, you'll see there's a lot of just sick people riding the subways, like I said, that just push people for absolutely no reason onto the tracks. It was, I guess you couldn't call it funny, but it's kind of ironic. Most people not paying attention. The situational awareness is very lackadaisical in New York. People pay attention when they feel like it. Most of the time, their head's buried in their phone. But there was a gentleman, you see him. He commits a theft of service. He jumps over the turnstile, so he fare evades. And as he does that, another individual comes to a passenger who's standing there waiting for the train, unsuspectingly pushes him right in the subway as the train's coming. Okay? Think that the guy is dead. I believe he survived as well. You really don't know what happens to him at this point. He falls, right? The following day, the news released a photo, okay, going down into the subway station where that happened. I can't remember where it was. I think it was downtown somewhere. West 4th or Christopher, somewhere around there, this happened. And they go down there next day after this made headline news, and it was in the Post, Daily News, and all this stuff. And you see all the people lined up against the wall waiting for the train. I mean, it's terrible, but it kind of takes a tragedy in order for people to wake up, to say, hey, listen, I shouldn't be on my phone this close to the platform, because I could get pushed. And anyone that's visiting New York City, please, please, please listen to me. Situational awareness is paramount. I can spot a tourist from a mile away, and most New Yorkers can as well. When you're looking up at the buildings, you're not paying attention, you're kind of just taking in all the scenery. We know you stand out like a sore thumb. So that being said, you're a little bit more prone to be victims of crimes, especially in the New York City subway system. So that being said, have certain safety tips. Keep your wallets in front of you, pocketbooks in front of you. There's a lot of pickpockets. And in regards to just getting pushed in front of the train, situational awareness is paramount. Have your back against the wall. Don't stand close to a platform. If you are going to stand close to a platform, have your shoulder next to the pillar, kind of pinned to the pillar. So if someone does try to push you, at least you have a little leverage to maneuver. Because once you're down there, like God forbid you actually survive a fall down there, it is extremely hard to pull yourself up. Like, it doesn't look that far down there, but I've been down there during track training. So when I was training to go into transit, you had to do something called track training. And down in Gravesend, Brooklyn, they took you down to this MTA facility where you had to do this training. And it's something called track training where you have to get certified. And the train actually passes by you while you're down there. I mean, you feel like you're this big. It's crazy how intimidating it is. And if you don't have particular amount the necessary force in order to pull yourself up or hoist yourself up or even do a few pull-ups, you're not going to be able to get out of there. It's extremely, the debt is, it's definitely more intimidating than it looks from up there than down there. And that's usually the way that it is with heights though, right? But it's hard to pull yourself out of there. So the last thing you want to do is wind up on those train tracks because it's almost an instant certain death. And not only from the train, but the third rail. It has so many volts of electricity that if you come into contact with that third rail, you're toast, literally. And I've seen that happen to people. I actually have some video of it, but it's too graphic for YouTube. Like I put a video out talking about a shooting that happened on the 7 train, and my channel got struck. So it was like, I blurred everything out. It was a news report. It was just something or whatever that, YouTube is very particular about. But I have this video. I'm going to try to figure out a way soon to maybe get on another platform or develop some kind of following somewhere else where I can actually release this brutal kind of footage, I guess. But it's awareness. It's for awareness that I'm releasing this kind of stuff in order for you to see exactly what happens in the subway system, So it's really brutal when someone comes into contact with that third rail. I mean, you literally get toast. The video I have is a gentleman who, he was just crazy, I guess. So there's a lot of mentally ill people roaming the streets of New York City. There's not the proper amount of health services that are needed for them. So they wind up in the subway system. They ride the train all night, back and forth all day. You'll see them camped out. Some of them make their own little encampments. They'll close off like a section. They'll make these little tents or whatever, This particular gentleman looked like he was a mentally ill homeless person. And he was walking up and down the tracks. Everybody's telling him, you're going to die. And I don't know if he wanted to kill himself, but he touched that third rail and you could instantly see what happened to him. Just locked up and he was done. It's brutal. He started smoking and everything. So the amount of volts that are in that third rail, like I said, it's just certain death. There's just so many dangers down there. And not only that, just the fact that it's old wood and steel and cement. If you trip, hit your head, you're done. Just that as well. It's just a really dangerous environment. So that's the last place you want to be. And I mean, like I said, during track training, they had us lined up down there, pillar to pillar, shoulder to pillar. So each person had a pillar. You had to pin your shoulder to the pillar during track training as the train passes by you slowly. I mean, the amount of force that train exuberates as it's passing by you. And I mean, it's something like you've never felt. It's really something that can knock you off your feet, which is why they have you pin your shoulder to the post, And I mean, those MTA guys, kudos to them, the contractors and stuff. I mean, they work down there. They actually have to deal with all this, like train, an actual train passing by you while they're on the tracks. It's pretty intimidating. Yeah, man. But that being said, there's just so many hidden dangers. And, if you're going to ride a subway in New York City, please try to be as safe as possible. Like I said, there's just so many dangers. On the next episode, I'll go into another story about pickpocketing teams. So my unit was involved in taking down a really big pickpocketing team from Colombia. I've spoken about that in a few of my interviews, so I'll give you guys a little bit more in-depth look into it. I mean, there's just so many dangers. Like I was saying before, as far as like the natural survival, basic safety tips of riding the subway, valuables in front of you, try not to let anyone get close to you if they have to, like you're in a crowded train, if you have to. Like I said, keep your hands on your valuables at all times. You might have your wallet in your front pocket. I mean, these guys are very good. I've seen them take laptops from people's book bags, very unsuspecting, take watches off wrists. I mean, they're professionals. Just try to have, be aware. If someone looks suspicious, don't let them get close to you. There's always that one guy or that, and they work in groups too. But you'll be able to see it. If you can't tell one person, you'll be able to tell another one. But there's always that one guy who's just acting out of character, keep your eye on him, and just watch your back, all your valuables in front of you. Like I said, book bags, try to put in front of you. Don't leave them on your back. Pocketbooks, wallet, jewelry, tuck it in, all that kind of stuff, just to be safe, to avoid a problem. When you get out on the street, I mean, you still might face the same dangers, but I feel like the criminals feel more emboldened to commit criminal acts within the New York City subway system. So, keep your back against the wall, keep your head on a swivel, situational awareness is paramount, and keep your valuables in sight at all time. All right. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. I really appreciate you all watching. Check out the next episode. So I hope you guys look forward to seeing me again, as I look forward to seeing all of you again. So everybody, take care. Hope to see you soon. And as always, I'm your host, Tony Hernandez, and this is Corruption Connection.